But in our fifth story on the countdown, Reagan is seeking $100 million in damages from the Murdoch empire. That is a sneeze compared to the startling revelation tonight about what the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan are actually costing this nation. The new estimate, the low estimate, begins at $1.5 trillion. Yet despite that, in Indiana this morning, President Bush had the gall to demand an additional $200 billion for the conflicts from Democrats in Congress after having criticized them for wasteful spending. On Air Force One this morning, Mr. Bush vetoing a $600 billion health and education measure while signing into law a massive increase to the Pentagon's operating expenses, $471 billion in all, including a 9% increase, not a penny of it considered actual war spending for the conflicts in Afghanistan or Iraq. What the president wants you to believe? Anything the Democrats want to spend money on by raising taxes to do so is automatically bad. Anything defense-related that he wants to devote billions to by borrowing heavily against the future of your children and your grandchildren is your duty to history or the almighty or something.
The majority was elected on a pledge of fiscal responsibility, but so far it's acting like a teenager with a new credit card. This year alone, the leadership in Congress has proposed to spend $22 billion more than my budget provides. Now, some of them claim that's not really much of a difference. The scary part is they seem to mean it.
What's truly scary, the full economic cost of Mr. Bush's war is officially pegged at $804 billion, which should make you feel faint enough as it is. But the new study by congressional Democrats estimating that the hidden costs, including higher oil prices, the expense of treating wounded veterans, and interest payments on the money borrowed to pay for the conflicts, is $1.5 trillion, nearly double the official White House price tag. Break it down, and the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan are costing each American family $20,000, and all of it paid for on credit.
Had the administration paid for the war in Iraq instead of borrowing, these costs would be significantly lower. Instead, the administration has created mountains of interest for taxpayers as far as the eye can see. We of the baby boom generation and our children and grandchildren will be paying for this war for a very long time to come. What this report makes crystal clear is that the cost to our country in lives lost and dollars spent is tragically unacceptable.
With that report in their back pocket, Democrats today giving Mr. Bush an ultimatum: no more money for the war in Iraq unless he agrees to start bringing the troops home.
This bill has $50 billion in it. Yet the president is not willing to take that with some conditions on it, namely that there should be a beginning of redeployment in 30 days, that we have a goal of having all of our troops out of there by the end of this year, actually December 15th, and there are a few other strings on it. Then the president won't get his $50 billion. That's pretty clear.
Let's turn now to our own Jonathan Alter, senior editor at Newsweek magazine. John, thanks for coming in.
Hi, Keith.
All right, so spend away on my warmongering priorities, but your health and education priorities, those are irresponsible.
I love this idea that the Democrats are like a teenager with a credit card. There's a little psychological projection going on there. I mean, when you think George Bush, you think petulant, smirking teenager without the maturity for the presidency, and he's put the whole thing on the credit card, as you indicated. You know, for all of American history, in every single war that we have had as a country, the president has gone to the public and asked for a tax increase. They accused Lyndon Johnson of not raising taxes enough, but at least all prior presidents in wartime were responsible enough to do this. So we're going to look back on this war, as tragic as the loss of life has been, as really the war that bankrupted America, and that's going to be the long-term effect of all of this.
Yeah, even Lincoln put in a tax during the middle of the Civil War to pay for it. This big picture now, $1.5 trillion, that is an unimaginable. Most people couldn't write it out if asked to. Would the other number resonate that the Democratic study came up with, 20,000 per family? Is that the sort of thing that although it seems like, well, 20,000 is nothing compared to $1.5 trillion, that might be a punch in the gut to people who might finally understand this?
I think people are beginning to understand this, and this is one of the reasons why he's reaching new depths in popularity. So the real question is, how much will this play in next year's campaign? All these Republicans are on record supporting the war, except for Ron Paul. And so in a debate, in a general election, presumably the Democrat will have some pretty good ammunition to say, look, this is just bankrupting us.
We have seen the Democrats with all the ammunition they have needed for a year. You and I have grown old answering and asking this question of each other. They're showing the resolve now. Will they still have it in February when the Pentagon says, no more money, what are you going to do about the troops out there in harm's way?
Well, this has been the problem. They are still playing defense. You know, Barack Obama referred to this on Saturday night in Iowa when he said we've got to stop as a party always worried about what are the Republicans going to say. So we'll see how far he's willing to go next winter, and it'll be very interesting to see whether Hillary Clinton is willing to cut the purse strings.
Should we expect them to hold out that long, or is this something that that both sides are going to resolve before the Christmas break, or is this going to bleed right into the start of the primaries?
They never do today what they can put off until tomorrow. And, you know, a trillion here, a trillion there, as the late Everett Dirksen said, sometimes talking about real money.
Eventually. He would be startled that we substituted trillion for that. Jonathan Alter, senior editor at Newsweek magazine. As always, great thanks. Good to see you here.
Thanks, Keith.